a right is a statement of a negative. It basically says I should be able to do this thing without anybody else forcibly interfering. Like the right to free speech doesn't mean somebody has to give me a microphone and a stage and an audience. It just means, hey, if I say what I think, nobody should like punch me out to stop me from speaking. So it's always a statement of a negative. So the right to privacy just means if I own me and I own my property and I want to, do a trade and not tell other people, or, smoke something in my own house and not tell other people, or, whatever the heck it is, and not tell other people, nobody has the right to forcibly intrude on that. So to me, that's all the right to privacy means. But it's hugely important, especially when you have an authoritarian ruling class that's trying to regulate and censor and tax and control everything under the sun. That if you choose to trade with somebody without telling anybody, nobody has the right to violently interfere with that. Government always claims the right. Well, if you trade with anybody else, it's magically our business and we get a cut because we're the mafia. I mean, we're the government and it's paying your fair share. And so the privacy is it's one of many things, but it's a big one, because if you can't, if you have to go confess to big daddy government or big mommy government, everything you do, everything you trade, everybody you deal with, everything you have, tell them how much money you have, tell them how much crypto you have, tell them how much you spent and on what. There's hardly a more essential concept of freedom than I don't have to tell you control freaks anything. I don't have to, not only do I not have to pay you, I don't have to tell you about it. You don't get to know it just because you want to. And I think that's something that lots of people all across the political spectrum kind of understand, because they all have things that they don't particularly want the whole world to know about. And it doesn't have to be like devious, nasty things. It's just, well, it's not your business. Like my medical records or what I invest in, or, who I'm in a relationship with, or, whatever. People have different things that they don't want the whole world to know about. And they understand that other people don't really have the right to barge in and find that out and tell the whole world.
Right.
And so
I believe I believe everybody had that once. We grew up with that mentality. That's my toy, right? It's mine. Nobody has that anymore. It's like it's yours by default all of a sudden.
Right. Right. But I think instinctively down inside, they still have it in spite of the weird indoctrination.
I'd like to point something out too, because this is a very, 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 very huge aspect to how well any person in the freedom movement, whether it's you or someone else, this is a very, 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 very huge aspect to how well any person in the freedom movement, whether it's you or someone else, is doing right now mentally with this in their perspective. And it's remembering your perspective. A lot of people they don't realize how small their perspective is. Their screen and their attachment to the internet makes them feel, including a lot of voluntarists, like they have a quote sense of like the direction the world's going in. And they don't, because you can't, unless you could literally be on the ground in every city and every place on earth, you can't see what's going on. And media, including alternative stuff, articles, whatever, is horrible, and it always has been horrible. It can't be very good at accurately representing reality. The best media in the world, unless you were there and you experienced it, can't represent reality. So I have to remind people that, like, if you haven't traveled and you haven't seen a lot of different cities in the US and you haven't talked to a lot of people from other countries, you might just see your town and feel like you're a lonely anarchist because everyone in your town looks like they're compliant, and you don't realize that it's a completely different world one state over, because that's what's going on right now. I live in Arizona and in the West, and like along the area of Arizona, Utah, Colorado, California, that whole area, there's a massive amount of divide where there's a ton of disobedience. But I know places where my friends are where they say, I feel so alone because nobody's going outside, people are compliant, and that's the pocket where they are. And meanwhile, like over here in a state is a riot going on, and the media is not going to tell you about that. So one of the things I want people to remember is your perspective on what's really going on out there is going to only get better if you travel and go outside. So don't be afraid of people who are brainwashed. Go talk to the most brainwashed people. Go find out what's going on in your cities outside of your doors, outside of your homes, because what you're going to find out is that what the ruling class's media is actually focused on doing right now is not trying to, like, basically they're not trying to convince everyone to be indoctrinated. They know they've lost that. They're actually just trying to gaslight the freedom people that there are way too many of, to make us not realize how many of us there already are.